Okay, so this meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to the order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12th, 2020, superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during the meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. So I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to ask if there's any additions or omissions, changes to the agenda.
No, I make a motion to accept the agenda as is.
Can I just, at the end of the meeting, just bring folks up to date a little bit on the kiosks and a couple quick questions on that? That's the only thing I'd like to add.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, and add that on to the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
That was Richard.
Yep.
And all in favor, let me find my roll call. Sorry. Richard.
Yeah, I'm at home.
Doug.
Yep, I'm here.
Penny.
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So we're going to start with 132 Maple Street, and we're asking for comments from, do we have all the applicants for that project? Are they all on? Can you tell?
Yeah, looks like we've got quite a few people here from the applicant side. Yep. So as you know, Frank, we've received quite a bit of information in the last month on this project. Doesn't quite appear to be what we were looking for, but so I think we are going to turn it over to our consultants, Art and Janet, and then open for discussion, maybe to the then to the commissioners for a comment. Then we can discuss, if that sounds good.
Okay. So Janet.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Got you.
For the record, my name is Janet Bernardo. I'm a professional civil engineer with the Horsley Witten Group. And my task for the Conservation Commission was to review the stormwater management proposed for this development. I provided, or Horsley Witten provided 3 letters, the last dated September 8th to the Commission, reviewing the various stormwater practices. In general, the stormwater management for the proposed structure is reasonable. They are providing what they need to provide according to the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. I believe that the outstanding item to be discussed is really the driveway and how water will go from one side of the wetlands to the other, crossing the, as you are aware right now, it just crosses the driveway, but the intention is to build the road up. And I think the intention of the commission is that the driveway actually is a solid driveway that vehicles can pass on comfortably without having any erosion that's being created by one wetland draining across it to the other wetland. I know Art is also on the call from Ecotech as the wetland specialist, and he has some concerns, as I do, on the actual how the water will get from how it's hydraulically connected to keep the driveway above the wetlands, so it is qualifying as fill, and also allowing it not dry up, but to continue to flow and be maintained as it is under existing conditions. So I think Art can talk more on that end, but from the stormwater on the actual building, that part I did find to be adequate at this stage.
Repeat that last sentence, Janet.
Stormwater management for the building itself, does seem to be adequately being managed properly with the driveway around the actual structure. Has, there's a catch basin and it's capturing it and it's going into a subsurface infiltration system and it's being managed properly and in accordance with the stormwater handbook. It's just the driveway, which is a separate stormwater management feature because it's not, it comes in a different perspective. So it's not like qualifying for the stormwater handbook. So the driveway is a separate entity than the actual building on a non-developed area.
Okay.
Art can add more to this conversation.
Yeah. Yes. Art, are you there?
Ready? For the record, Arthur Allen from Ecotech Incorporated, peer review wetland scientist for the commission. I reviewed the most recent revised documents and plans and provided response memo dated September 15th, 2020. I'll start with just the minor outstanding issues. They did now propose a proper wetland replication area, and they're also proposing some restoration in an area I noted that had a woody debris fill in and adjacent to the wetland. And they're talking about basically 500 square feet of restoration and 1,300 square feet of replication. And I'm in agreement with the plans and protocols showing those areas. The only additional concerns I have about the replication and restoration or the mitigation plan are there's no restoration or stabilization that I saw proposed for the woody debris removal area, the 500 square feet they're proposing. And I also saw no restoration or stabilization proposed for the area where they're proposing to relocate the starting point of the cart path. They're proposing to move that out of the wetland, but they're not showing any restoration for that area. So those are kind of the two minor issues that I believe are easily addressed. The other outstanding issue, as Janet mentioned, is the construction of the driveway in the vicinity where the existing cart path crosses through the wetland at grade. They are still proposing a hardened driveway at grade. Essentially, the flow from one side, the up gradient side of the wetland, will flow essentially over the wetland at high flows. It was a little bit confusing because the main set of plans shows one cross culvert under the driveway feeding from the up gradient wetland into the proposed replication area. But then the separate watershed plans appear to show two additional culverts under the driveway. And the details for all of those culverts appear to show them embedded below grade on the up gradient and down gradient side of the proposed hardened driveway. All of which I believe I don't agree with in terms of both potentially dewatering the wetland by embedding the culverts, creating a sump area where the culverts could easily become clogged, and then the whole concept of water passing over the driveway, both having a lot of potential for icing problems in the winter when you normally have high water conditions in the wetland, and then just, maintenance year-round issues of constructing a driveway at grade, which in my opinion is a very outdated way to construct a driveway. 100 years ago, wetland and stream crossings were constructed at grade. They called them fordings, where they would just basically go through the wetland or through the stream. But current practice is to typically to raise up a driveway and provide adequate hydrologic connections under the driveway, so you're not causing an impoundment of water, so you're maintaining the hydrology of the wetland, but providing a raised, stable surface for the driveway that's safe to pass at all times of the year, and not subject to these other issues that a driveway at grade would have. So essentially, those are my primary outstanding concerns, and it's all documented in my September 15th memo. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Before we have commission member comment, I'm thinking we should let the applicant speak to the comments that were just made. All right. Gary, are you going to be the person to speak to that?
Oh, there we go.
You
Yes.
on? I just
Couple of things, and I think obviously I'm sure everybody saw the emails going back and forth over the weekend. Actually, it was Friday relative to the proposed culverts under the driveway. It was actually it was one of the options that I had. One of the options I had actually looked at in terms of the design. So it was a little bit confusing, and I'll agree that it was confusing for both Art and Janet relative to the plans that were submitted. But what we have found and what the calculations do show is that there is sufficient capacity for the flow going back through the stone underneath the roadway that essentially it will pass even the peak of the 100-year event going through the stone. And we're not proposing to change anything on either side of it. So it would have allowed the ability for the water to come into that stone beneath the proposed driveway, and then let it filter through let it actually flow through the stone on the layer, and then discharge at the downgrading edge. It would have matched the existing flows exactly. And what I did find, and I believe Janet even corroborated this, was that the permeability of the stone beneath the proposed roadway was sufficient to allow even the peak of the 100-year storm to flow through it, and then partly because of its length. I mean, it's almost 150 feet wide, so if you provide that stone layer underneath it. Now, the big issue that Janet had with the two culverts that we had was that they were embedded slightly into the ground, I believe about 6 inches on the upgrading side and about 2 or 3 inches on the downgrading side. And they were only 2 8-inch culverts. Obviously, we cannot depend solely on the culverts themselves to be able to pass the stormwater flows, because essentially what's happening is this becomes the primary outlet for a 3-lot subdivision only on the basis of the failure of the upgrading abutters to implement their stormwater features that were part of their agreement, part of their permit. So if we can depend on the stone and I can put the 2 culverts back in, raise them up so that there's no issue relative to dewatering, which will satisfy Janet's primary concern in association with the culvert crossing. The stone that we're using is 3 to 5 inch. The permeability is incredible based on the analysis. It comes up to about 0.35 feet per second going through it. So the culverts themselves, we can change the plan, add the culverts. The culverts themselves will then take care of the primary low flow, and the stone will be available for any additional flows beyond that. And the real benefit of this too is that by putting the stone in there and putting in the filter fabric and encasing it in the filter fabric, what we are doing is we're actually providing a certain degree of TSS removal in association with the untreated runoff coming from the upgrading abutters prior to its discharge into the Zone A. So we do get some secondary benefits associated with it, which is one of the reasons why I really don't want to try and depend solely upon I don't mind putting the culverts in to be able to handle the low flow, but I don't want to depend solely upon the culverts themselves. But that's, to me, that seems to be the compromise. And at that point, I believe Janet agreed with the overall permeability of the stone underneath and its ability to be able to pass the upper storms. So to me, that seems to be the compromise that we have the ability to be able to implement with very minor changes to the plans. And I think everybody has agreed that the replication area and even the restoration area in association with the, I've added a note to the plan to be able to treat the restoration area where the wood and all of the brush had been stacked up behind the wall, to treat it more like we were proposing to do the sidewalls of the restoration area, and just pull it off and then hit it with a wetland seed mix. Let it, do it in the spring and do it in the fall, whatever growing season we're doing, and it should be very, very quick. But I believe this would really address everything. I know it's a little bit of a change from the plans as they stand right now, but it would address both issues at the same time.
Okay. I guess Janet and Art, can you respond to that? Maybe start with Art and then to Janet. I mean, it sounds like it's more of a drainage. So for Art, it's the couple of changes with the restoration area.
The culverts.
Well, the culverts I think are more Janet's purview, but well, both of them. Just if I could get a comment from both of you on what Gary just put forth. So we'll start with Art. He looks like he's muted.
Yeah, I'm muted.
There you go.
Yep. Thank you. Art Allen again. So just to clarify on the culverts, so there would be 3 cross culverts total. Is that right? Gary?
Can we keep Gary open at the same time just to?
Yes, there would be 3. 1 feeding the replication area, and the 2 at the 2 low points, where you currently see the water flowing across the cart path now.
Okay, great. Yeah, that I thought just, from a wetland perspective, that appeared to be adequate. I'll defer to Janet. I think she already said that they were adequate. So, yeah, if that can be made consistent across the plans, as well as the changes in elevation, that should address my concerns. And then you mentioned, Gary, restoring the woody debris area, but there's also the area where you're going to shift the cart path out that needs to be restored too. Just keep that in mind, please.
Yeah, if you could talk to Chris about that, I didn't understand that, because it's pretty well vegetated now. I mean, it's being mowed. Obviously, we just stopped mowing it, but I didn't quite.
Oh, I thought you were talking about abandoning part of the existing cart path.
We are abandoning part of the existing cart path, but it's already vegetated.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I mean, that should be fine. I haven't been out there in a while, and
Oh, all right, good. I think if you go out and look at it, you'll see it's pretty well vegetated. I mean, all we really have to do is just stop mowing it.
yeah, if you can just make that in your response, that should be fine then, if that's the case. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Art. Janet?
So the one concern I have with Gary's conversation is the filter fabric, really. I do think the large stone with voids should allow the water to continue to flow through and will collect some of that sediment. I think we're finding more and more that filter fabric can clog, and I would be, it will be a long time. It's not going to clog probably year 1, but I would be concerned that the filter fabric, particularly, like maybe you could have it on the downstream. I'm not sure, but filter fabric we're finding more and more gets clogged. And wrapping the whole thing in filter fabric, I would be slightly concerned about. I don't know if either Art or Gary have a comment about that, but we are finding more and more that filter fabric becomes a problem. Large stones, I think, can allow the water to go through. I like the idea of 3 extra culverts to provide the low flow, as well as if there's any clogging that happens. I don't know if there's a way to protect the culvert inlets. Maybe it's part of a operation and maintenance plan that's very specifically annually those 3 inlets get checked and anything removed from them, so that they will always be clear and open and don't get full of debris along the way, and then the whole thing gets backing up. I assume that the property owner isn't going to want to see that wetland back up and get dammed behind the driveway. So it's in their best interest to make sure it continues to flow through. But if Art is comfortable with the wetland being able to maintain, I'm comfortable with the hydraulics flowing through the stone as well as having the culverts at grade. If Art is comfortable with the wetlands being maintained as wetlands.
Thank you, Janet. Gary, do you want to just come back to that?
Well,
Are you
Janet,
clear?
the only real concern I had was above the stone and below the stone. For the side,
Oh,
yeah, that's, I mean, as long as we can maintain the filter fabric on those, and then if you really wanted
yeah.
the integrity of the void space in the larger stones, we can always put a pea stone layer on the outside edges to protect.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Yeah, the filter fabric on the top and bottom, I have no problem with. It's just on
Okay.
the side. I didn't want the whole thing wrapped like a burrito.
That's a good
But if
analogy.
the sides are open, that would be good.
All right, well then why don't we do that? And what I'll do is I'll just modify the cross section and throw the pea stone on either side. At that point in time, it really becomes an oversized stone check dam, and that's really what it is.
Careful.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? And I want to get on to our members, but so when we talk about this, are we talking about an elevation change in the roadway? And if so, how much?
Well, the culverts will have to, they're 8-inch culverts, and they'll have to be set at grade. And then the driveway will go on top of those. And how much cover are you going to have over your ductile iron pipes? Is that true, Gary?
Yes,
So how much cover will you put over the pipes?
probably 8 inches is what I'll strive for.
So you're at like 16 inches, so assume 18 inches over the existing surface of that wetland.
Yeah, right at the culvert crossings.
So this road's sort of going to go up and down? Is that,
It doesn't need to. I mean,
It's up and down now.
okay. So I think the only reason I'm jumping in on some of this is we just seem to have been through a lot, and it's a little bit more difficult to get this sorted out when we're not all together in a room. So,
Can we go back to Art real quick before we go through the commission, Frank?
yes, but just let me understand so that we're all clear. This road is going to rise and fall at each one of the culverts. So is overall the roadway going to be much higher than the grade on either side, or is that only going to occur where the culverts are?
Putting the pipes at grade, you're going to see a little bit of it's only going to rise at the 2 culvert crossings. It will, in the middle, it will stay the same. So the 2 culvert crossings, it'll be up, but because of the size of the stone that we're using, the 3 to 5 inch stone, it can almost stand vertical, and all we'll do is we'll just have like a one-on-one with the pea stone.
but you just don't want to have a 100-year storm event and have that wetland go on top of the road. I assume that you want the driveway to always be clear of water.
That's
So
correct.
you're going to want to make sure it's high enough so that the stone, the wetland, the water will just go underneath through the stone and will not go on top of the driveway. So I think you are want to raise it maybe to 12 to 18 inches. I don't know how high that the wetland gets. I heard it gets wet though.
Yeah, because right now, at the two crossings where it's dipped down, it's down probably about 7 or 8 inches below the high points on either edge. So we've already got that depression. So in reality, it's only going to it'll come up 16 inches at the low point, but it'll still only be 8 inches above the high point in between.
So somewhere between 8 and 18 inches, the entire driveway will be raised, depending on if it's lower. And then
Just
it'll
about
become
that.
more flatter in general, similar
Yeah, because
elevation.
ironically, Janet, when you get beyond the wetlands, the road actually falls off.
Of course it does.
I know. Yeah, it actually slopes away from the wetland.
All right.
Does that answer your question, Frank?
It does. Thank you.
Hey, Frank, I think we have Bill Orenberger wishing to jump in there, it looks like,
So-
too.
Well, we also have Art who's going to comment quickly.
Yeah. So I think, thank you, Doug. There's actually a couple of people. I think Bill had some comment, but I spoke earlier today with Mike Adams, who is a family member that was hoping to, he's an engineer, hoping to speak on behalf of this. So I'm just not sure where to put these folks. And we want to move it along. So I guess Bill, and then Mike, real quick. I'd like to move it along.
What about Art?
I'm sorry, Art first. Go ahead. Thanks, Amy. Arthur.
Yeah, that's fine. Art Allen here. So it appears that that Janet, Gary, and I are at this point on the same page in terms of the driveway construction. It's going to be elevated throughout the wetland, with a little more fill at the low points where the culverts are going. There'll be 3 culverts total, fabric above and below, no fabric on the sides. It sounds like a plan and just a couple of additional tweaks, or narratives pertaining to the 2 restoration areas. I think, and we'll be there from my perspective. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Arthur. Do you want to let Bill in? Or would you please let him in? You may not want to. But...
Hello?
Okay. Hey, Bill.
Hello. Thank you. No, just to add what it sounds to me that with the discussion with the town's 2 consulting engineers and Gary, that if Gary does those things that I guess that does that address, in other words, does that address the commission's issues? That's what I want to get at, and what the next step is. That's all.
Well, let's let the commission members weigh in on that, Bill. I think we've discussed it enough. Why don't we let them do that, and you'll have the opportunity to answer questions that they have. How's that sound?
Thank you.
Mike Adams, if he's on, just before we flip to the members, if he wants to add anything to what Gary's already done. See anybody out there?
I think I'm unmuted now.
We got you.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yeah, no. I think the dialogue was constructive. I think that Gary's comments create a good resolution to the concerns that the consultants had raised without causing any additional disruption or any significant disruption to the wetlands, which was an objective that we had. And just so for the group, I'm Christine's brother, and they asked me to provide some assistance to them, given that I have a background in soils engineering. And we're trying to help them kind of sort out what's the best way to accomplish this. And I think the resolution to the comments seem very doable, reasonable, and I think that speaking on their behalf, I think they would be accepting of kind of making those tweaks to the submittal and proceeding on that basis, if acceptable.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I'm going to flip over to members. Thank you. Richard?
Well, I think if the, hold on. I think if the engineers have made the agreement to make those adjustments and they're all in agreement, I would just want to see them put on the plans that way. And it sounds good as far as the wetlands and the culverts are concerned.
Thank you. Doug?
Yeah, it sounds like we're close here. So when I looked at these drainage calcs, it looked like you had a culvert and then you're treating the road basically as a weir. And now you're adding, if I understand right, a couple more culverts to there at grade. And it sounds like our consultants are in agreement with that. So I think that is a pretty good creative manner of getting through this wetlands like that. So I think that's, no, I think that's, it sounds like we're there. We just tidy up the plan and get that stuff on there. And yeah, it sounds like we're good to go.
Thank you, Doug. Penny?
Hallelujah. I'm so happy. I think we're there.
What was that?
I think we're there. We're in agreement. We're all getting what's best for the wetlands. So I am thrilled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jen?
I mean, that really took my breath away, Penny.
It's been a long time, Jen.
I know. I share a little bit more of Richard's sentiment in the sense that I felt like at the last meeting, we also had the same agreement or something similar to it, and it seemed to have gone haywire. So I'm not saying hallelujah until we actually see everything written up and agreed to.
Okay, but you're basically aligned with the decisions that we've come to tonight, so they can go back with the engineer and put those all to paper.
Yeah, if our consultants are happy,
Okay.
then I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you. Andy?
Yeah, sounds like we're headed to conclusion. I know at some point, and this may have been a couple of drafts ago, so I may have missed a change. There was concern about compaction with the level of use that would block that, and that hasn't come up in tonight's discussion. I just wanted to see if there was if that remains a concern or if that's been settled.
Maybe that's a good question for Janet.
Again, Tom.
I was curious on the level of traction going back and forth over the driveway if there's the heavy equipment. I also was I was trying to understand the stone size and the 3 to 5 inch that Gary has just said, and maybe that was written in his plans earlier and I couldn't quite grasp it. But 3 to 5 inches I'm comfortable with. And then there's going to be asphalt on top. That's just going to be the kind of like the structural stone on the bottom. So I think if there's 3 to 5 inch stone, that's, good 8 inches deep, at least on the, it seems going to change a little bit. That then is asphalt. I think the compaction will be fine.
Great. Thank you.
I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you, Janet.
Good,
Thanks,
Frank.
Andy. Brendan?
Yeah, I would. I like what I'm hearing tonight, and I just want to see it on a plan. And
Yep.
looking forward to wrapping this up.
I just ask one clarification. Did you just say asphalt?
Yeah. It's the first I've heard of that.
I thought it says the detail has crushed concrete.
Gary, I think, is muted too. You know what? So I've misspoken. So if Gary can say, as long as there's something on top and they're not just driving over this.
Yeah.
What's on top of the stone?
It's going to be recycled concrete. So it'll be crushed concrete, Doug.
Yeah.
So it will be
okay.
solid.
That's
It's a
what I thought.
solid surface. in the end. It's not,
It's not asphalt.
I'm sorry, it's not
No,
asphalt.
it will not be asphalt.
Okay.
But it is a solid surface that will spread out the load. It's not going to be gravel, dirt.
In some cases, we've allowed crushed asphalt, like recycled asphalt, but in this case, I'm looking at the plan and it says crushed concrete.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sure you review more than a few projects, Janet. So, okay. Amy?
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with everybody here that this has been a constructive kind of working meeting to try to get to where you need to be for the consultant's comments. Yeah, so revised plans, get them reviewed by the consultants, hopefully get it signed off, and at the next meeting, hopefully we'll be in a position to close. The next available meeting is going to be the 19th of October, so I think that should give a few weeks for them to revise the plans and be reviewed, which will work out pretty good, I think. Otherwise, I don't have any other comments.
Is there anybody in the audience for this project?
I think we look good, Frank.
Okay, can we go back to, I guess I told Bill Ornberger or Mike Adams, if they want to weigh in on this. Can I ask one thing before we shift it out? Just that this has gone back and forth so much, is it possible for Gary to give his revised plans, say in the 90%, whatever he has to do to change this, to get that information to both Art and Janet as like a cursory review, something that they can look at real quick? Is that feasible to have that done rather than have him wrap up a whole plan, give it back to him, and then I'd just like to find a way to kind of pull this together without a lot of like a whole nother gyration being done. Is that
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Frank. I would hate to have a repeat of this meeting at our next meeting so that, the engineer gives us not what we just talked about. So I think that probably just pushing it out to that meeting, which is in just under a month, but it should give time for he can send a preliminary just to make sure, and then they can comment quickly and then finalize them. But, it's still pending review though, right?
Yes. Okay. I don't know what you want to put on Bill or
Yeah, I see Mike here. I'm going to unmute Mike.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. I was just thinking that with the changes that were requested and the fact that the increased elevation of the roadway at a couple of locations will probably, if anything, improve the flow capacity of the structure, especially adding the additional culverts for low volume events. So I would have thought that the calculations probably as done should be sufficient, and it's a matter of reviewing, I think, the culvert detail, the inlet and outlet elevations and the section view to get comfortable, for Janet and Arthur. And so that seems pretty easily sketched out, reviewed, and resubmitted. So I think we should be able to turn that around. I can't speak for Gary, but I don't know that he'd have to redo all the stormwater calcs based on this change.
Let's hope not.
Is that fair? Can we get a comment from, well, probably from Janet and Arthur?
Yeah.
Let's flip to Bill and then we'll ask them to kind of wrap it up. All right. Anything else, Mike?
No, I think everybody, including me, and I'm just on the sidelines, not really impacted directly, but excited to try to get something that will work that we can proceed with. It's ironic that we're jumping through some hoops to address a wetland that didn't exist prior to the development upstream. So it's unfortunate. I think that we're trying to do the right thing given that there is a wetland, but the reason for it is unfortunate, but we're accommodating it. And I think the solution that we've worked together, I think, works.
Thank you.
Frank, I don't see Bill on the call, so I think maybe he had to pop off.
Okay. Janet, can you comment on where we're at?
No, I think that that's reasonable. Realistically, I mean, makes sense that that's how it should all work. My only concern would be the elevation of the wetlands north of the, I'm assuming it's north of the driveway, that it doesn't overtop. So I think, that's in the benefit of the homeowner as well, to make sure that he's not driving through water at any heavy storm events, and that there's an operation and maintenance plan that is being addressed.
Great.
I would like to see that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't think he needs the calculations, though. I think we kind of are comfortable with that.
Great. Thank you. Art?
Yep, I think we're all on the same page. Full speed ahead, and I'm fine with reviewing a draft plan at any point that it comes out, and should be good.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we want to continue this to when?
Yep.
10/19.
Yep. I'll make a motion to continue 132 Maple Street till October 19th.
I have a second on that.
Second, Doug.
That was Doug. All right. All in favor, Richard?
Yep, I'm good.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you all very much. Did you say that Newell Street's going to be continued?
Yeah.
What's the date to be continued to? 10/5.
10/5, yep.
Penny?
Okay, I make a motion to continue 8 Newell Street. I believe it's the dock to 10/5, October 5th.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
Yep.
Are we talking about the dock? Are we talking about the pool? Are we talking about
No,
the
the
whole area?
pool was already continued last meeting till October 5th.
So it'll be both on the same night, correct?
Correct.
Now they will be both on the same night.
Look, I'm recused from it. I just want to make sure it was straight for everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
thank you.
No, the pool is already continued to October 5th, and I'm
Okay,
trying to continue the dock.
thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue 8 Newell Street, the dock, to 10/5. I have a second on that?
Second, Doug.
Okay. So Richard, he's not
voting.
Yep. Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Frank, yes. All right. So now we're going to move to some RDAs. And first one is 250 Clap Road. On Monday, September 21st, 2020, during the 5:15 meeting of the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Jared Garreau for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to a footing for a deck on property known as, I have 304 Clap Road. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
250 Clap Road. Yeah, 250 Clap Road is what we're doing now, septic. Oh,
Yeah,
hold on, folks.
Deck is 3.
Did I pull up the wrong one?
Yeah.
I did. Sorry about that. Bear with me. Got it. On Monday, September 21st at the 5:15 meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Aaron and Michael Mitchell for a determination of applicability of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to a septic system upgrade on property known as 250 Clap Road, Scituate, Mass. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted at town website. So this is Morse Engineering. Paul Gunn.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Paul, you're up.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I'm Paul Gunn. I'm a design engineer at Morse Engineering. I'm here representing Aaron and Michael Mitchell of 250 Clap Road for the RDA for a septic system upgrade. So on the site currently, there's an existing 3-bedroom single-family dwelling in a residentially zoned neighborhood that was built in approximately 1987 with associated gravel driveway, lawn, deck, and wooded areas. The site slopes, generally speaking, in a northerly direction towards the 2 resource areas, the first being a bordering vegetated wetland that was delineated by Brad Holmes that is on site. And then there is a vernal pool that is NHESP certified that is off site. The site is all considered FEMA Zone X and does not lie in any DEP zones 1, 2, or A, and also doesn't include any land that's considered NHESP estimated or priority habitats for rare wildlife. The proposed work, we're proposing to abandon the existing septic system, which is in failure, and we're going to replace it with a 1,500-gallon septic tank, 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and 56 ARC 36 leaching chambers. We're proposing the SAS at 88.3 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland and approximately 190 feet from the vernal pool. And the tanks are proposed outside of the 100-foot buffer to the bordering vegetated wetland and approximately 225 feet from the vernal pool at their closest point. We don't expect any negative impacts to either resource area. All the work we're proposing is on previously disturbed area. It's all lawn. And the only actual work that's proposed within the 100-foot buffer is approximately 20 to 25% of the soil absorption system, and is further away from the existing system, which again is in failure. We also meet all, Title V and state setbacks for either the bordering vegetated wetland or the vernal pool for both the system and the tanks. And of course, post-construction, we're gonna stabilize the site with loam and seed to ensure there's no undue erosion into either resource area. I believe that's all I have, so I'm happy now to turn it over to the commission for question or comment.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
No, I don't think I have any questions. Part of it's in the 100, but way away from the 50. It certainly looks like an improvement, so I think I'm okay.
Okay. Doug?
No questions. It's about as good as you're going to be doing. Squeezing it in that little corner is all you've got outside the buffer. So
Okay.
you got it in there pretty good.
Penny?
You could put it in the street, Doug. You can't get much closer. No, I'm fine, Frank. It looks good.
Jen?
Yeah, echoing Doug's sentiments and Penny's joke, I appreciate all of the work that was done to actually, get it as far out as possible. So that's great.
Thank you. Andy?
Oh, I'm good.
Right. Brendan?
Lost.
Am I here? Hello?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
It looks pretty good. It appears to meet the requirements of a negative determination. I wasn't sure if Paul had mentioned whether or not it has Board of Health approval. I might have missed that. I don't think it does, but we'll unmute him.
So I was reaching out to the Board of Health all day today. I couldn't get in contact with them, so I'm not sure if it's been approved yet, but we haven't received anything in regards to comments or revisions from them.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience for this? I'm assuming that it's pretty quiet.
Yeah, they should raise their hand if they want to participate.
So Paul, we can close this. I honestly don't see where, I just don't know what the Board of Health, if they for some reason didn't approve this, I don't know where you'd be going. Do you have any, or we leave it open? But then we have to get orders or something like that. So I'm just,
Well, it's an RDA.
oh, that's right too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
I'd just as soon
Let's go with
wrap
it.
this up. Okay.
I make a motion for a -3.
Second.
All in favor? So that was Richard for the
Yes.
second, correct?
Yes, it was.
All right. So all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Now we're on to 67 border.
Yeah.
So on Monday, September 21st, 2020, during the 5:15 meeting in Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Monica and Peter Martin for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw for activities related to replacing leaf litter from an existing man-made pond and installing a pool liner at property known as 67 Border Street, Scituate, Mass. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information on to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted at the town website. And this is Morse Engineering.
Says Ross.
No, this is Ross, yeah.
Oh, Ross, sorry. Sorry,
Okay.
Paul.
Which I just tried to get Paul on, and we'll keep trying.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The Martins purchased this property about 5 years ago, and this property is the subject of a notice of intent to raise and reconstruct the existing dwelling, as well as other work relative to the driveway and the septic system. On the pond, when they purchased it, there was an existing man-made pond. It's about 3,800 square feet. It does have some leaf litter in it that's accumulated over the years because it's never been maintained. What the purpose of the RDA is to allow them to go in there and remove the leaf litter. The pool liner is not going to occur. I spoke to Mrs. Martin a few days ago, and she informed me that because of the cost of that and the work it would involve to install that, they have decided to abandon the pool liner. So the application is simply to remove the leaf litter that's in the pond to clean it up. And that's it. The pond is surrounded by lawn. The plan shows a silt sock around it, to capture any leaves they may fall out of the bucket when they're removing it. And other than that, that's the limit of the work. It is within, it's partially within the 50-foot buffer and entirely within the 100-foot buffer to the wetlands surrounding the salt marsh, as shown on the plan. So with that, I'll end and answer any questions the members may have.
Richard?
I guess my only question is, how are they going to do it? What means are they using?
The contractor told me he's got a small excavator with rubber tracks that he can drive right up to the edge, and he can reach the pond from the three sides that are shown on the plan and remove the leaf litter.
Thanks.
Doug?
I don't think I have any questions.
Penny?
I just have a curiosity question. Is that pool fed from underground from the marsh? Or how,
I don't believe.
where's the water coming from, Paul?
I was out there this summer and the water level was way down.
Yeah,
I think it might be a combination of some groundwater, but primarily the rainwater. I've seen it after a series of rainstorms. It does fill up.
Yeah.
They've got a small pump there that pumps the water up to the top of the ledge, and the water comes back over. It looks like a waterfall.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
the pump's been off most of the summer because of the lack of the water.
exactly. Okay, fine. No, otherwise I'm fine with cleaning it out.
Jen?
Yeah, I don't know if this was said before, but in general, I think it's great how often the Martins actually notify the commission of projects they want to do. On the chance they do want to do the pool liner at some point, should we keep it so they don't have to come back? I just don't want them to, like, they're so great about letting us know about things, so like why remove something if they might do it eventually?
That's a great idea, Jen.
Yeah, I think that's a good point in the event that they do want to put it in, but
Okay. How long is that good for? An
3
idea.
years.
How many?
3.
3 years. Okay. Great.
And could I ask a question, Frank?
No, it's not your turn yet. Andy?
Okay.
I want to know what Penny wants to ask, so I'm going to say I'm okay and get back to Penny.
Well, Brendan gets to go after
No,
you.
I'll just sit here and be good.
I have an extensive list of questions, but I'm going to forego it all.
Waiting on Penny?
Yes, yes. No, I don't have any other
Penny.
questions.
Just, can I talk now, Frank, or you?
Yeah, we've had our fun. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just curious. I mean, I personally don't think I have a problem with a liner, but on the other hand, if that is a natural occurring pool, yes, they dug the hole. Would the liner would keep water from coming from underground? I mean, I don't understand. We've never had this asked before, so I just don't know what the repercussions are.
Well, the goldfish would probably wind up with more water if they had a liner.
Because of the rain. I understand.
Well,
that.
think about Hatherley Country Club. They've got a really deep pond that they've excavated that was going to be with a liner.
Oh,
And
okay. All right. Was that the one that they were going to do, have a liner?
At the golf course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, then we have done before. It's just, I think it's really neat. I
Sometimes,
don't have a problem personally myself to give the NOI, the negative on both.
okay. Sometimes when they install a liner, they can actually put like little valves in, one-way valves, so that groundwater, ground pressure can come into the pool, but it can't be drained back out.
Yeah, so the liner won't pop. That's an idea too.
Yeah, so they can work that out if they decide to do it, but.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Do we have any comments from, Amy, do you have any comments first? And then anybody with a hand?
I do not have any particular comments. I believe that it appears to meet the requirements of a negative finding.
Okay. Anybody in the audience for this one? We didn't draw any crowds on this.
I'll make a motion for a -3.
Second,
Okay.
Doug?
That was Doug. Great. So Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. How about 58 Oceanside? On Monday, September 21st, 2020, during the meeting at 5:15 p.m. in the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Doris, is it Sorol, for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Scituate Wetland bylaws for activities related to construction of a deck on property known as 58 Oceanside Drive. Scituate, abutters, and other interested parties are invited to attend. And who's the application for that one? Paul?
It's me, Frank. Thank you. This project is a part of a FEMA grant program, which the applicant applied for back in 2016. They have completed all of the work with the exception of putting the open deck off the first floor, which will be on the ocean side of the house as shown on the plan. We did file for a certificate of compliance. All the work's been completed with the exception of the deck. She was waiting to get some funds back from FEMA before they could proceed further with the project. So we filed an RDA to install the last portion of work that was included in the FEMA grant program, and that was the elevated deck, which I show on the plan in the shaded area. It's on the ocean side. It'll come out about 14 feet from the covered porch. There's a set of stairs which are in already. There's a photograph that shows the back of that house from the ocean. And you can see the slab that it's going to sit on top of. Again, it'll be an open deck. The elevation of the first floor is about 6 inches lower than the first floor of the existing house, which was elevated on the concrete piers in the last few years. So that's the extent of the work. There's no soil removal or anything of that nature. It's fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand this drawing. So there's an existing patio there and the deck it's back from the patio. So you take steps down to the patio, which then goes to the beach. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes. Yes.
And what's the deck is elevated on what?
It's going to be elevated on post, I believe 6x6 posts, wood post.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Doug?
I think I'm good. It's pretty understandable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Penny?
I'm okay.
Jen?
I'm good.
Andy?
I'm all set.
Brendan?
I'm all set as well.
Amy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm all set too, although we were not provided with the plans for the structural plans. But so it sounds to me like, Paul, they're on footings with posts. And since it's in the V zone, I don't think the deck can be attached to the house, which I can't see from this plan, but
No,
as long as it's compliant with building code, I suppose is the point.
it is not attached to the house. I spoke to Peter Falk, structural engineer. The decks can't be attached to homes in the velocity zones.
Right, and if this house had not been elevated, it would have triggered the whole structure to be elevated, but so since it was elevated just recently, that's a good thing. So and it also can't be attached to the seawall either, which doesn't appear that that's the case. So it appears to meet the requirements of a negative determination.
Paul, I've got a question puzzled here. Maybe what we're looking at is an existing plan of the house, because this shows number 58, an existing dwelling or a finished floor of 19.7, but this deck is going to have a floor elevation of 24.8.
Frank, when I did the plan, I forgot to change the numbers from the plan that was approved showed a first floor elevation of 25.4, which it was constructed to. The top of the piers are 23.2. That's as I said earlier, we filed a request for certificate of compliance. There's an elevation certificate with that also. Those are the correct elevations. If you take the first floor elevation of 25.4 and subtract 6 inches from that, or 0.5 feet, you'd come out to, I think we show 24.8 for the elevation of the deck, which is about 6.5 inches below the first floor. It's just one step down from the first floor.
All right, but the only plan that I'm seeing in front of me when I pull this up is is showing an existing dwelling, unless I've just got the wrong plan up.
No, that's the right, it's dated September 1st, 2020. When you have?
No, September 1st, yeah.
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 The only thing that's in there is the elevation of the first floor.
Okay, because it also calls for a basement.
No, that's wrong. There's no basement. You can see the photograph that I attached to the RDA. You can see that it's obviously up. The ground elevation there is at 16.
Okay.
Over the photograph that the
All
house
right.
is about 9 feet above grade of the first floor. So
All right, so that deck plan was drawn on a existing dwelling before the elevation.
yes, yep.
Shouldn't we have up-to-date specs, at least for a file, so we know what we're doing?
Yeah, I can change those elevations on the existing dwelling to show the actual ones.
So we're looking at just a survey plan. So Amy, was there a plan for like the sonotubes or footings?
Oh, that's what I was saying, is that we didn't have a structural set or detail. This is it. This in photos.
They have a set, there's a set filed with the original notice of intent,
Okay.
2016, and I talked to Peter about that.
All right. So I think we can, I don't know if everybody's comfortable. I don't mind giving that, but one of the pieces of this would be that we get the plans for that file. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion for a -3. And
Amy, did you have anything else? Easy there, Tiger.
No, I think that covers it. I mean, I guess I was a little bit confused about the orders and why this isn't just done under the existing orders, but sounds like there was a CFC request that's pending for this, or did we just issue a CFC on this?
We filed that last December, on 5th of December.
And did we ever issue it? Because
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know either.
All right. Well, that could get sorted out. Is there anybody in the audience to speak to this? All right, Penny, it's your turn.
Okay. I make a motion for a -3, and Paul will get the right elevation on the plans.
I'll second it.
And some details.
And some detail.
I'll still second it, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. So all in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So now we're on to 304 Clap Road. Right? Monday, September 21st, during the 5:15 meeting at Town Hall, Scituate Conservation will act on the request of Jared Grove for a determination of applicability of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to footings for a deck on property known as 304 Clap Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access virtual meetings will be available on the agenda posted at the town website. Is this the applicant?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Great.
it's Jared Giroux was on.
Correct. Thank you. We are in the process. We have received a special permit to build an addition above a garage that is currently on the property. There's already a foundation for the garage. The only potential impact would be we have to install 3 deck footings as part of making sure that there are 2 means of egress. Those would be right within 3 or 4 feet from the existing structure that is currently there. They will be dug 4 feet down to allow for sufficient concrete to be poured for the footings themselves. As part of the application process, when we were speaking with the building commissioner, he suggested that we get in touch with the Conservation Commission to make sure that they were going to be okay with it and that it was not going to be something that we needed to get further clarification on. So that's why I'm here. I certainly am not as well versed as the gentlemen who have spoken before me. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them as best as I can.
Okay.
That's the 50.
Richard?
I've got nothing for the moment.
Doug?
No, I have no questions.
Penny?
I'm just looking at this. It's an existing garage already in the 50-foot buffer. No, I don't have a problem with them putting that. Okay.
Jen?
No, I'm similarly caught up the way Penny is just on how a garage got built in the 50, but nothing about the footings on the deck.
Okay. Andy?
I'm okay.
And Brendan?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
Amy?
Yeah, so this plan that we're showing is from this application, right?
That's correct.
That shows the pre-existing wetland line from basically the original rebuild. So I think a lot of you, especially those who live out on the West End, and Frank and Penny and Richard for sure, remember this one coming in as a notice of intent. It was actually predated me. It was a rehab of a house. It was like an antique farmhouse or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I've been in this house because the guy that renovated it did a very thorough job and was working towards getting the Phragmites in the backyard cleaned up. And actually to this day, I'm not 100% sure that there's a full C of C on it. But anyway, so the backyard is grassed up into the tree line. But this, I think that the garage had already been there. You know what I mean? So it was already there as part of the original house.
Yeah.
That's how it came to be. But as far as whether 3 footings and this location for egress for this accessory dwelling project, it appears to meet the requirements of a negative determination.
Okay. Anybody in the audience for this? I don't have any questions.
Okay, I'll make a motion for -3 then.
We have a second on that?
Second from Jen.
Jen, thank you. Richard?
Good, fine, yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Brendan?
Yes.
Right, Frank, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. So we just want to get on to some other business. Do you want to do the minutes first?
Yep, I make a motion that we approve the draft minutes for August 17th as written.
Second. Doug?
Okay, great. So, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next one is discussing the 780 First Parish Road orders to accept a construction sequence plan which will allow the building permit to issue prior to the replication, but prior to construction of foundation and certificate occupancy and a security of a sum of money to construct the wetlands replication. So Amy, do you want to elaborate on this a little bit?
Sure. So this was the one at the project at 780 First Parish that we discussed at Penny's request last meeting. There were orders for that project issued either late last year or the beginning of the year. I'm not sure of the issue date. But now that the orders, the way they were written, there was a special condition because, as you may recall, there's a very quite long driveway that goes in over a wetland crossing and involves a replication right off of First Parish. And there's also another second buffer restoration area, but there's two areas that need to be planted, as well as the driveways built over a perennial stream. And then that allows the house to be accessed to the upland. So the special condition in the orders now requires that that replication be done up front prior to issuance of the building permit. And the reason why it's written like that is so that the project doesn't run out of money before the required replication is built and monitored and so on and so forth. So we like to get those, get that done up front or as early in the process as possible. So with this language, which would just strike out the requirement for it to be done before a building permit, the intention there is so that it was brought to our attention that apparently for a new home construction on an undeveloped lot, that it's difficult to get financing without showing that you can actually secure a building permit or that that lot is buildable. In talking to Bob Vogel, the building inspector, he said we can keep this on the short list for, no certificate of occupancy, keep it on a list to monitor so that it doesn't go by the wayside. Because you certainly don't want to change the orders and let this possibly not get done and have them run out of money. So then that would be the point of the surety. But so that's we're up for discussion and that you guys can start sorting around.
Okay, I think Bill Weinberger wanted to jump on this one. Just to comment, Amy.
Well, do you guys want to pass it around?
Well, why don't we let him explain something and then we can ask the commission members. But might as well get it out there.
Thank you. Bill Armberger. Linda Dwight couldn't be here tonight, so I appreciate you, the commission, taking this up. What I'd ask is, and everyone knows about the tragedy loss for her husband, so this is all new to her. But what the discussions that I've had is just very simply under condition 43, if no certificate of occupancy can be issued, and if whatever the sum is, $10,000, they post that, then I don't see why the building permit provision is necessary, because from a commission standpoint, one, there is no occupancy permit, two, there is no certificate of compliance, and three, there's a surety there. And that would permit, because basically the couple wants to build a single family house here, they cannot get mortgage financing with that provision, absent the issuing of a building permit when they close.
Okay.
So that's what we're requesting.
Right, but we can't just change the orders, you know what I mean? So, but what we can do though is accept a construction sequence plan. And as a minor modification, you can indicate that, you know, when in the stage of the construction sequence plan that the replication would be done. And like, so basically just write that out in a letter. And then if the commission can decide on a surety amount, that with the surety for the replication, I suppose that's some sense of reassurance for the project.
Well, if I can ask a question, why can't you just vote it?
Well, first off, Bill, I think the commission's trying to accommodate a situation here. The orders were written, and the applicant certainly could have appealed those orders when they were issued, and they didn't. And so now there's another party involved that doesn't like the orders that were written. So the commission's trying to accommodate this, seeing that there's a problem, and also the situation with Mrs. Dwight. But by the same token, we're trying to be sure that we get a wetlands replication, and quite honestly, we've had this issue before where people have been more than willing to promise us that they're going to do anything, but it gets to the other end and we're left chasing some of these problems, and someone's got a house. So if you've got a pretty bulletproof way of making sure that these wetlands replication gets done, you can tell us what that is, but I really want to be sure that that gets completed.
Well, just to ask a question, if a certificate of occupancy will not issue, how can you have a problem? No, because the way the order is written, obviously there's a redundancy. It says prior to a building permit and an occupancy permit. If it was building permit, you don't need occupancy permit. If it's occupancy, you don't need building permit. So it wasn't, there's redundant words in there. Which ones are redundant? I don't know. And so all I'm asking is that, here's reality is, we're just looking, and I understand from a commission situation, you're trying to be accommodating, but here's reality: to rewrite a construction sequence and figure out how much should be held and all that stuff. That was a conversation that was happening a few weeks ago. And the reality is, if there is an action taken, then tomorrow I'm simply going to tell the buyer's attorney that we can't sell the property, and that's it. So in other words, there isn't, the reality is, and I know it's not the commission's issue, but either, you know, I don't know what to say. I'm partially frustrated because I was locked out of my prior conversation representing my clients in pants. So I'm extremely upset. That's never happened in 30 years to me. So I don't mean to drag this into this discussion.
Well, let's stick to this one first. If there's an issue with a prior hearing, we've already closed that. I think that's something we can discuss outside of this this evening. And I wasn't aware of that, so we'll take a look. I thought we tried to bring you in and couldn't, but let's not deal with that one now. So if the building permit, the hang up on this, is my understanding, was that the applicant couldn't get a building permit until the wetlands was replicated. Is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
So now we're going to allow the building permit to be issued.
Right, so you just want to.
So
we just want to modify so it's not prior to building permit, so they can get a building permit, but we want the replication prior to construction. So I think that's the key words. That and the surety, I think, would probably.
So So if someone's buying this in November, is this a good time to be doing replication?
Yes.
So, but what I'm being told right now is that I don't know. I don't know. If you can't help her, just tell me and I'll report it.
Well, I think we're there.
Yeah, fall is planting season, so I mean, I think we're there. That's right.
So I don't understand, because I was hearing about changing construction sequencing. We'll figure out later what might be the appropriate bond. So what should I report? Is there a path forward, or there's no path forward? That's all.
It sounds
Frank,
to
do
me
you
like
wanna-
there is.
Yeah, let the commission speak what they think. And then
Go ahead. Richard?
I don't understand why it's such a big issue. I mean, just, is it that difficult to change the order and allow it before the issue, allow the building permit to be issued and then have the replication immediately following?
Well, so we're not changing the orders. So here's the thing, right? Because the orders stand. What we would be doing is allowing a minor modification. And so, but you want to have your modification clear so that the people next in line of us, it's clear to them what was supposed to happen when they go to get a certificate of compliance. Because as you, like, it's of all the discussions that we have for CFCs, they all seem to go sideways when it comes to the point of what, things were changed after the fact and, either didn't get done or did get done. So it starts to get confusing. But I think if you have we do accept minor modifications. So I think, without amending the orders, which is an official public hearing, and, that's how you would officially amend an order. I think you could accept a minor modification, which would generally be, done at the request of the applicant, the request for the minor mod. But I think from what Bill is telling us and what Penny has told us, that situation has arisen where they're communicating that the loan is tied to a building permit. So, if it's the building permit is they need to get a loan, then the modification would be, that we would, I don't know, I guess not reword that, but just we would sign off on the building permit and expect that the replication be done as early in the process as possible, which is what it says in the orders.
Yeah.
But prior to construction. So I think that's.
Yes, and I think you've just stated it the way I would have wanted it to be stated. Allow the building permit, but keep the replication right underneath it.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I wish there's obviously some history here that I'm not completely familiar with. I pulled up the site. This is a vacant lot? Is that correct?
Yes.
And there was
Yes.
Looks like there must have been a stream crossing.
Yes.
Okay, and so the replication area has to do with that.
Has to do with.
Yeah.
And so they want to get that, because I have had that situation from clients before that they, and I get how dicey that gets, but they needed to get the loan, they had to be able to show that they had a buildable lot, which really means a building permit in your hand. So I don't really have a problem doing that. So the mechanism to do that, if it's a minor modification, that seems like the way to go. And but I guess when you say prior to construction of what? The dwelling itself? Because I think what I'm hearing Bill says is, what if if the weather is not amenable? I guess right now you could do replication. If they don't get that done, they can't work on the house over the winter, or are we boxing them in? So if you did say before occupancy permit, do you see that as a potential problem, Amy? Like down the road, if
Well,
they're not going to get to occupy that.
I mean, I think we could leave it like that. I think that prior to construction of foundation tightens it up quite a bit. But I mean, if you want to just say certificate of occupancy, I don't know. I've seen, we have sites out there where there's replications and, let's face it, Scituate is a busy town and the building department office is particularly busy. So he can put it on his short list and I can try to keep my eye out for it. But I just think that you lose, I don't know, you lose something by giving that up. And what you risk is that you're going to have a house that's built and the replication's not going to be done and the people are going to run out of money or the project's going to slow down and stall. And you know what I mean? It's like, given this economy, it puts it into the unknown category. So,
Okay.
I mean, I suppose that the surety is, it would be something that would give you a little more comfort there, but.
Bill, are they prepared to start the construction of the replication area now?
No, they want to have a building permit so then they can buy the lot and do it. They don't want to do the work until they own the lot.
Right. So, but they had the building permit, and then if the order said replication goes in before the foundation, do you see that as a sticking point on your end?
I don't know, but the classic thing is, for whatever reason, you're sitting here in the month of, we're on the precipice. And again, I'm not a botanist. I defer to Amy on this. But hey, if all of a sudden it's Christmas Eve, is it a good time to put your application in?
Right, and yeah, then it would become problematic. And I get that, because if they're going to get a building permit, they're going to want to start working on this get the foundation poured and be able to work on it over the winter.
Right.
Because carpenters like to work inside. They don't like that outside.
Easy. It never works that way.
I'm for helping them. I get it. Like everybody wants to be covered. It's not the first time I've heard this snag over getting a loan without a building permit. And I've always also been worried about giving up my leverage by letting things go out of the office. But it seems to me that we ought to be able to accommodate this somehow fairly easily. And make sure that replication area actually gets built.
Let me move down to Penny and we'll get like a consensus here, Doug. Penny?
Okay, I guess I'm confused. I think we should let them get their building permit. If we have a surety, I'd said 10 to 15,000 would be the replication, because you don't have to bring in soil and all that if you read everything. So if we had a bond or surety, whatever you want to call it, of 20,000, and they can't get an occupancy permit, I mean, because I can see, wonder if we had a freak frost in November and they don't start work right away. Oh, okay, and they can't get the replication in. Like Doug said, at least they could work on the house until spring. And if you can't get an occupancy permit, then you can't get in your house. I mean, I think we're making too much out of this. If we have the bond, then we have a way to get it done, even if they go bankrupt and walk away and somebody else comes in. We have the funds. So between having the funds and no occupancy permit, I just don't see it as a problem. But that's me.
Okay, Jen?
I don't think I have anything new to add.
Andy?
Yeah, similarly, I think it's been covered.
Sure. Brendan?
Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with what's been said already. So, you know, I know you don't want to give up your leverage and whatnot, but I think there's a way around this.
Okay. Not that I need to know all the nitty gritties here, Bill, but who's posting the surety?
It's probably going to end up being Linda. And so I don't care, you know, in other words, she'll come up with the money. Is if this is a $20,000, and it could be, say, cash bond is fine. So you don't have to get into having someone review a bond. Post a $20,000 cash bond that isn't, in other words, that's not returned until the commissioner or the consultant confirms the replication's been done in accordance with whatever. And we'll deal with it if she has to put the money up. She'll get the money, she'll do this, and then we'll work out something with the you know, with the home purchaser here, and you know, that's our problem.
I guess that's one of the things that I don't want to see is a year from now or a year and a half from now, the people have built the house and then we're getting a request we're trying to accommodate a tough situation, but the next one would be that someone's coming back and saying, well, geez, I have my hands are tied. I can't build this thing. I don't own it anymore.
Then if I could make a suggestion, just to amplify the first sentence, it says performed early in the development, put a date in there, but in no event later than May 30th. And that'll be long, long before this house is finished. And because even if there's a quick winter here, you folks tell me there's no reason why in the month of May you can't put this in, right?
What do you think about that, Amy? If we have a deadline, we just put a deadline on the.
I like
If they
it.
don't do it, you put an enforcement order up.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to keep a certificate of occupancy. We're going to have a surety of
20. Go for the 20, Frank. Double what Art said.
20,000. Amy, how do you feel about that?
I usually like to take an estimate on things like this and times 1.5, but it doesn't, honestly, I don't think I have a huge opinion on it.
I don't think I ever recall seeing the estimate from Art on.
He said 10, 15 at the most.
Yeah, 10 to 15 was Art on the replication agreement.
Okay, so 20.
Yeah.
And then no certificate of occupancy. I would say partial or full, because oftentimes the building inspector will issue a partial if some things are outstanding. So I think it should be clear, no certificate of occupancy, partial or full.
Or CSA.
The surety. And what do we want to have for a date?
May 31st?
Is that reasonable for the amount of work that needs to be done? Not familiar with that. Or
$20,000 replication would get done in a week.
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly fine.
May 31st.
Okay.
We're all out planting then.
Bill?
That's good.
Okay. So, I don't know. Have everybody got the gist of that so we don't have to make a specific motion? Or do you want to make a motion to amend well, we're not amending the orders.
Yeah, no, I think I have sufficient information to get a memorandum of understanding together. So basically it's going to be in order to allow a building permit to issue on this project, Conservation Commission accepts a minor modification to the orders dated blank to allow the building permit to issue no later than 5/31. Replication will be started. I mean, will it be completed by 5/31 or?
Completed.
No, 5/31 it has to be started by.
Completed by.
Oh, completed? All right. Well,
Completed.
wait a minute, stop and think. Planting. All right.
We're thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You can plant maple.
May, you could get back to planting. All right.
and then we'll get language out of an order about the surety bond for, or surety, basically a cash amount of 20,000 like we do for CFCs that we're going to hold in an account, in a guaranteed deposit account, which conservation used to do that, like back in the 80s and 90s, they would do that on projects like this. But commissions have gotten way away from holding people's money, and it's just a better practice to require these things up front, because then they get done. You know what I mean? But this is a little bit unusual in that it's a new build on an undeveloped lot. And although the building commissioner, just of note, does not have a building application in hand on this one, and could evaluate the plan and write a letter to the loan company saying that it's a buildable lot. That's something that they also do. But we can write a memorandum and do it this way as well.
Okay.
I make a motion?
I don't even know do we want to vote this?
Well, I think we should have it on record.
Can you just say so moved for everything that we just said?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do, is I make a motion what Frank stipulated, all those things, and Amy, that's acceptable, so they can get their building permit and move on.
Yeah, and I can circulate this memo, and if it's not what you guys think we talked about, then you can let me know. Does that sound good?
All right, so I got a motion from Penny. Do I have a second?
Yep, I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, 2 seconds.
2 seconds, Richard and Doug. Okay, so now a vote. Richard?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Want to change it, Amy?
I want to change it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The next one is Toll Brothers bond reduction request.
Okay, so we put this on the agenda because, as you guys know, Toll Brothers has asked us to consider a bond reduction request. And this is just a conservation discussion as to where you are leaning towards whether or not, you want to go down that route. That I think they associate a value with what they're looking for at like $80,000 or $90,000. I'm not under the opinion that it's time to do that, and I think that you guys just need to basically talk it through. Frank, we've discussed it. This is based on conversations I've had with the chairman and others on the committee, and where they are in the process as far as the replication that they've done at that site, and a walking path and bridge that they're doing, the vernal pool cleanup, and then of course ongoing repetitive violations with the stormwater permit. So those would be things that, and also under consultation with the town administrator, we're under no obligation to reduce the bond. So just so you know that, but you guys can bat it around.
All right. Can I let Bill speak to this next? I know he got short shifted. He feels he got short shifted on the last one. So
How much is?
can we keep this to a minimum, Bill?
Yes, just in brief, and I believe I'm looking, Amy, you have a copy of, there was a letter from Amy Ball back on July 27, where she was supposed to send a letter. I don't think the letter ever got there, but it says, I don't recall there being any major issues as with replication. So we got to follow up on that, but if you look at paragraph, condition number 50, it's black and white. There's 120 grand put down for replication, nothing else. And it says upon satisfactory completion by, confirmed by the town's consulting engineers, 75% of 90 grand of that's released. The rest of it is held, until after the third growth season. So it's pretty black and white what it says. And I just want to confirm that that's what the commission wants, and we'll follow up with Amy Ball as to have her do what's necessary to give the commission the information they need.
Bill, what is the actual request from Toll Brothers for the release of what?
For the bond reduction, what it says under condition 50 is that when the replication work is done and it's confirmed by the town's consulting engineers, that 75% of the $120,000 is returned, and the balance of that is held until after the third season of growth confirmed by the town's consulting engineers.
So this is actual money that the town is holding, 120,000?
Yes. Treasurer has 120 grand.
Okay. And this is it's number 50?
50, yep.
It's just a replication, Frank?
So this has nothing to do with the rest of the project?
Nothing to do with the rest of the project.
The vernal pool?
Nothing. This is separate and distinct from any other sums being held for any other issues.
Right. I think I'd still like to take the opportunity to we want to talk to Amy Ball.
That's fine.
About this and review what's out there. I mean, I'm concerned about the dry season this year and make sure that everything's in place. So why don't we have that conversation?
Okay.
And then we'll take it from there.
Well, so on Amy's letter, she did cite dry conditions as a concern.
Mm-hmm. So we're not committing to anything.
Yeah, I still don't think, we need to commit, so.
Please get some direction, that's all.
Sure.
Okay.
So you have to hear from Amy Ball, and if she's in concurrence, then we can move forward. Is that fair enough?
Well, then we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote and go from there. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bill. What do we have? Request for certificate of compliances. So 62 Glades Road. Jen?
Well, here, why don't I just start with that one? So basically, we have, we get lots of certificates of compliance, and for the most part, we check them out and we concur and we sign off on them. There are a few like sticklers out there that were, identified things that we weren't quite happy with, and this is one of those sites. Although these orders were originally actually for a septic upgrade when they remodeled the house a few years back. And this is where Jen and Frank were there too. But basically, we identified some issues. We met with the owners and their team and agreed to a plan, and said, if you do this and plant this, we'll give you your partial C of C with a 1,500 holdback or some kind of a holdback, and call it a day. And then also in the meantime, there was a parking license that issued. So because they only own, the lot actually only owns 8 feet to the south of the house, in order to park like more than one car in the driveway, they had been using town-owned property. So I'd never seen this before, but they actually had a parking license with the Board of Selectmen for a couple of years for a couple of dollars, and that let them increase that width by another car approximately. But next to that parking area is a dune that had been, robust and full of rose bushes and what have you. That's been partially restored, not completely. And then also in front of the house where the septic system was they had gravel, but they did plant a lawn and some bushes by glades. So lo and behold, things were going in the right direction, but I was contacted by an attorney, Brodsky, to say that the owner doesn't want to finish it. So I also consulted with the TA, and I think that we're probably at the point where we need legal advice on this to move it forward. So that's probably what my opinion is that we need to roll in counsel to respond to the counsel that the owner of the property had hired. But you guys can talk it about.
So maybe I can add to Amy's piece a little bit. So like she said, it was originally there was an application for septic system, and I think there might have been some deck work or something. And then subsequent work at the site, we found that the applicant or the contractor or whatever had taken a lot of liberties on that project, that they had built onto the seawall, and that they had also dug out some areas, as Amy pointed out, with the rose bushes and things like that. And in the septic system, there was supposed to be grass planted, and instead they put crushed stone. So we found a significant number of non-compliance items on that property, and we did actually meet with them and discuss it with them. And at the same time, as Amy pointed out, this topic of encroachment on the town property came up, and it was discovered that a long time ago, some permission was given to park on some town property, but that they had been expanding on that over the years. So they met with the selectmen. The selectmen gave them, we're going to give them permission to continue to park there. However, it was contingent on them cleaning up the issues with the commission. So we've kind of put all this forward, and the owner still doesn't want to do some of these pieces. So I'm not feeling incredibly compelled to issue this. We can try to reconnect with the owner. We can restate our position and make sure that we get back the pieces that were originally conditioned. I don't really think we don't have to knock it around too much more than that, but I'm willing, anybody that wants to comment on this, let me just run through the list. Richard?
I don't think there's any way we should issue a condition of compliance at all. And I'd be done with them, frankly. I think they just have to adhere to the conditions, period.
We can never be done with them, Richard.
Whatever.
But I think we've tried to accommodate these folks, and okay.
You got to stick to it.
Thanks. Doug?
Yeah, obviously it's a little history I'm not aware of, but by everything you're just saying, I don't see why we would a certificate of compliance when it's not complied with seems a little odd. So doesn't sound like that's a good thing. I was trying to look at some pictures of it, but I'd have to read the orders to see what they didn't comply with. But from what I'm hearing, you don't want to, it doesn't make sense to issue an order now. Of order of compliance. Certificate of compliance, not
Certificate
order.
of compliance. Penny?
Yeah.
I'm just frustrated. It's been going on for so long. And the town was good enough to let them park. I just think they need to finish it up.
Okay. Jen?
Yeah, I don't have anything new to say. I very much agree with Penny's comments.
Andy?
Yep. I think it would be good to see the conditions met.
Brendan?
Did you say that they built their deck onto the seawall?
Oh, that was a nightmare.
It was it was attached to it. It was
Well,
a
what
piece
we
of,
did, Frank, was the wiring was on the seawall.
it got correct. It got corrected.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I agree with everyone else that this should not be issued until it's complete.
All right, I see Evelyn on the call with her hand up, so, I mean, this is not a public hearing, but did you want me to put her on, Frank?
Sure. Mrs.
Good.
Nelson?
Hi. I, except for the escrow account, believe I've complied with all the demands. We have cleaned up the dune, installed more dirt on it, installed planting on it, installed the lawn, installed the rose bushes in front of the house. My contention has been there was no escrow amount requested in the written orders of COC. This was just something discussed between Jen and Amy on an off chance remark as they were leaving the property. None of my team agreed to it. I was never discussed with me. Now, if all partial COCs require a escrow account, I'll do it. But I want a record of where it goes and what happens to it.
Okay. So, Amy, usually when we hold an escrow amount is because there's some items that are left incomplete.
Right. Yeah, so on sites where we have plantings, we, in order to let the window go so that they, that the plantings take, we usually do take a holdback for
Nelson,
replications.
Is Mrs. Nelson still on here?
Yeah, she's.
Have you been listening to our meeting tonight?
Sure. Yes.
So you heard the one with Toll Brothers where we're holding a really significant amount because it's a much larger project. And then there was another one with a wetlands crossing that to ensure that we get that wetlands crossing, we're holding them. So we can point to multiple projects where the commission holds some form of escrow or whatever to assure that the things that were done.
And if your commission, your board votes for me to do that, I will do that. But just to be told that I have to do it because one person makes this decision, I don't think that's very fair.
Well, it isn't one person, and we can certainly vote this right now. But
Okay,
and then what happens with your money is it's held in an account with the town until we will set some sort of time frame to make sure everything's established.
Yep, 3 years.
Okay, and then
how long? I did not hear that.
3 years.
Okay, originally there was 2 years, Amy.
Yeah, generally we keep it for 3. It was a 3-year monitoring window. And it is a good point as to whether or not the 1,500 that we originally discussed is going to be sufficient for items that might not be complete.
We have a
list. What's not complete?
So you just need to think about that. That's all. Well, I don't think the dune is quite the way we had.
If you Google Earth that dune,
Mrs. Nelson. So it's difficult for people talking over people when we're doing this, and I understand you're frustrated with this, but let's finish one piece and then I'll ask you just to respond, okay?
No problem.
Thank you. So right now the question is what's left, what do we feel is left to complete on the site?
Yeah, and I think she's pretty close, honestly. I feel like maybe the dune, it was meant that it was supposed to be built up a little bit more than it is. And that the probably some additional plantings in that dune. But then really it's just the monitoring of the plants. Like I would agree that the front yard is planted with grass and that there's rose bushes along the front. I'm not quite sure that they all made it through the drought this summer, but she's close. Just not quite there. That's all.
Amy, can I chime in?
Of course.
Yes, Jen.
So I regularly pass by this site, and I do agree that we are not, 17 million leaps from being near the end on it. There's just some pretty significant differences in terms of, for example, the erosion control barrier is just absolutely not to code. It's actually has broken open and is leaking foam all over the nearby area. So I think if you were to actually see it, you might actually be disappointed, Evelyn, in the work that's been done. In addition, the rose bushes are not to, some of them haven't even been planted, or one of them is still in the pot in the front yard. I walked past it just an hour before this meeting, so that's the case. But those would just be what I saw this evening.
Mrs. Nelson, do you want to?
Yes, I was not aware that the silk socks have let go. I'll have that fixed. We had a really hard time sourcing silk socks. We could find one supplier and we bought them out. That rose bush is planted. The reason we cut the bottom of the pot out, the reason we left it there is left the pot around the plant itself is because there's not enough dirt to go down because of the septic system it's planted on top of. It goes down right down to the gravel rock. We didn't want to disturb the septic system. So we did cut the bottom of that pot is cut out. We just was afraid that it would die if we just let it flop all over there. And again, silk sock I'll have fixed. I was not aware there was a problem. If you can source me a source of silk sock, that would be great. We couldn't find any more.
Okay. So
we had to drive an hour to get that silk sock.
Okay. So right now, the question is getting the surety, and then at what point do we give the CFC?
When they give us a check, we'll give them the CFC.
And these other items that squid, like the silt sock, are done.
Yeah, we can write that in the partial, but yeah, that should be done before we give them the CFC.
Okay. I just don't want to continue this on. I want to pick the pieces that need to be done. So we need erosion control repaired or replaced and a surety for this work. And everything else on the site is pretty much as it was anticipated.
I think it's pretty close. I mean, I haven't gone out there and counted bushes, but you know what I mean? But if I just look at the intent of the planting plan, I think we're pretty close. So Jen, what do you think, Jen?
The dune was supposed to be about 2 feet wider to the north, as was documented in the email chains going back and forth.
It would go over asphalt at that point.
It was supposed to meet the asphalt.
It would go over asphalt at that point.
It's supposed to meet up to the asphalt.
That was my understanding as well, is that
we had to drive those stakes in with a sledgehammer into the asphalt it's in now.
So there's a question about the dimensions of what's there, or the quantity.
It sounds like it, yeah.
So
yeah, and it was my understanding that the dune was to go to the edge of the pavement. I mean, like, and actually, Evelyn's property manager was there, and where we both pointed at the same place. So, I mean, and I've had conversations on site with her that she indicated that, yes, she agrees that it was supposed to be moved out a little bit, but that it was put on hold. So.
Right. So the items, just so I understand it, the items that are left other than the surety is the place, this location of the dune or expanding of the dune. We'll need to take a look at that, right? And the erosion control. That's it. Right?
I think that's right.
Okay.
Well, I think I don't know if you said it, Frank, but the email originally noted about, I think, 15 to 20 grasses that were supposed to be planted in the dune. So I think when the dune comes to the size it's supposed to be, that will all make sense. But based on the way it looks now, it doesn't.
So are the grasses planted, or is that what the money's for?
I don't believe I've seen any new grasses there.
Grasses are planted. There's at least 15. I'm not sure exactly how many.
Okay. Okay, so these items here that we just listed, we can confirm these or get back to Mrs. To get back to Evelyn with these pieces and try to get that resolved.
Okay, well,
Right, but I think we should get an agreement on the surety and an amount so that, I mean, because it's as simple as if she can mail us a check, we can get the partial out. Because I do understand that there's a closing that's pending.
there's
We
a
don't
closing
wanna,
there's a closing pending on October the 2nd. I will have a check there tomorrow morning if necessary.
Well, I don't think we need it tomorrow morning, but how soon will the other pieces get rectified?
Talk to my manager tomorrow about fixing the sock. Again, you're making me improve a dune that was never that size. You can look at Google Earth. You're asking me to do above and beyond, and I think that's wrong. But I'll do it. It's absolutely necessary.
Okay. Do we have a figure for the surety?
the figure was 1,500.
$1,500. Okay. All right. Have any more discussion on this?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Evelyn, are you good? Enough?
we're
Good
clear.
enough.
Okay. All right, thank you. What else do we have for certificates of compliance?
You know, that's the only one we were going to talk about.
Okay,
So we're good with that. We can go on to E, letter E, extension request. And so on this one, this was just, I wanted to bring this up as a discussion item because you know, we have the orders and the permits that we issue, they have expiration dates on them. And so for orders, they're generally 3 years. Well, as you know, in March, we went into an emergency declaration by the governor. And so that order suspended the expiration dates of our permits while we're still in the emergency, which we are still in the emergency until 45 days after the emergency is lifted. So right now we have a small queue, probably of like 5 or 6 orders that, you know, they've said our orders are going to expire and we'd like an extension. Some of them, I think, you know, it would be their first timers, whatever. I think that it would be clear that you would probably extend them. Maybe there's a few others that you might want to think about a little bit stronger about whether you'd actually want to extend those orders. Because let's say maybe they filed in, you know, the beginning of 2000 and it's been kicking around for 15 years or so, then that might give you reason to reconsider the whole site. But so the topic is just to let you know that there's extension requests out there for orders, but that the orders actually, in fact, do not expire. And so should we be issuing these extensions with today's date, or should we just keep collecting them and then once the order or the declaration is over, just issue them all at once?
So,
you know, do you follow me?
Yeah, I do. So a number of years ago, during the downturn in the economy, orders were continued for what is it? They gave like an
Yes,
extra.
well, so that was a Permit Extension Act. And
Okay.
so what they did is they added an additional 3 years and then they extended that. So it was like, it actually gave life to some permits of up to like 7 years at one point.
Right. So is there anything been proposed by the state with regard to this COVID piece is to just extend just a blanket extension of orders for this period of time? Has that been proposed?
Not that I've heard of, but, you know, actually this week is the like agents roundtable meeting where we talk about, you know, like latest and greatest and where the state's moving on these things. But all we know is that right now is that the order was these permits just, they don't lose life while we're in this emergency.
Okay.
But I mean, so I guess your guess is as good as mine as to when the governor's going to choose to end the emergency declaration. There's not any sign that states are doing that. So, but I think it's tied to funding and stuff like that. But I think that that's like the economic incentive to keep them alive is greater than, you know, ending it for everybody.
So I guess my question is, do we want to act independently on some of these things for people that need them, maybe ones that are expiring or something like that? Or do we wait and see if the state's going to issue some sort of thing where these are just like a blanket extension of a certain period of time?
Yeah, and so I think I was leaning towards waiting and seeing if the state was going to take action. Because since they're not expiring, then there's no harm in not extending them, right? But if we extend them, then I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out the most simple way to handle it. And as long as they're not expired and the people that are relying on the permits to do the work can still do the work, then it seems like if we just keep them in queue, and once we get guidance from the state, we can figure out what the appropriate action is.
Sounds like a plan. Okay. Are we there yet? I just wanted to update folks real fast. One of the Eagle Scouts, Ryan Flynn, has started to install the kiosk frames and roofs, and he's installed them at Crosby, at Mount Hope, at Higgins McAllister. He's getting close to installing them at Hollycrest, and we're going to relocate a small kiosk that was at Mount Hope over to Hubble. So that's good news. These scouts for a while have sort of been stuck not being able to do this project, and we Howard Matthews and I met with another scout that's going to be doing the boardwalk on the Pipes Trail. So it's good news that they're moving forward on those. I did have one question while both Andy and Jen are on. Did we come up with an actual location to put the kiosk at the Driftway Park? Do you remember?
I don't believe we talked about that, no.
Maybe you two could give that a little bit of thought. If we're going to put it, I would assume somewhere near where we enter into the park from the parking lot. But if we could just give that a little bit of thought, and so I could give him some direction.
Yep.
All right.
Can take a look.
That'd be great. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay, before Doug falls asleep, let's wrap it up.
I just figured out how to get you all on the same screen at once.
Oh.
I don't want to stop.
That must be fun.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
No.
Sure. There we go.
How's the signage coming?
It's coming, right, Jen?
Yep.
There you go.
Do you think they'll be out soon so we can open those gates or what?
Yep.
Yep. Thanks. Very encouraging. Good night. Make a motion to adjourn.
We'll take a second on that.
Second.
All right, all in favor. Let's see. Richard. Oh, one more thing.
Richard went home.
I'm in favor.
If anybody's having a problem with our starting at 5:15 or whatever, just be sure to let us know. I'm assuming everybody's still working in the same situation. But if work things are changing, please don't hesitate to let Jen or Amy know, and we'll see what we can do. Okay? Appreciate everybody working at this. So, Richard?
I'm still in favor.
Oh, good. Doug?
Yes, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Penny?
Good night.
Jen?
Good night.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank? Yes. Thank you all.
All right.
Thanks.
Night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.